Hi everybody, welcome back. In this video we're going to start creating the UV template, and with the bottle there's a couple of little tweaks that we need to make to the model before we begin the template that we didn't kind of get through sort of in the last modeling video, but they're only pretty minor, so it shouldn't take more than a few minutes to do them. So let's get those little bits over and done with right now, so we can jump straight into the UV template. Okay, so the first section. So just to refresh everybody's memories, we've got basically we've got the main bottle. We have a lid. I've got a little ring here that basically snaps off when you take the lid off. Some of you may or may not have modeled that. I sort of said that you could probably, you could probably do it or not do it depending on how you were sort of feeling about it. We also have the thread for the top of the bottle. So basically, the main area that we really need to tweak is actually inside the lid. Inside the bottle. It's actually down at the bottom. The very bottom base section of the object. If we switch to X-ray mode for a second and I deselect, you can actually see that the base of the bottle down here is flat, like this. So what I want to do is basically just shape this and actually get this kind of more in line with the bottom of the bottle. I'm not going to spend too much time doing it. I'm just going to do it really roughly, and it's not really necessarily going to be indicative of a real world bottle per se, but it's really just so that we don't have this completely flat bottom that's going to appear in the bottle, especially if you do like a see-through plastic or something. That will show up like that. So it's really just a case of just kind of cleaning it up a little bit. So before I kind of start doing the template, we'll sort that out. I'm just going to temporarily switch back to this 4-view mode, and that's really just so I can see the polygons in the bottom of the bottle down here. My bottle currently is unsmooth, so I'm just going to select it and press 3 just so I can kind of see what I'm doing. And the tricky bit here, if I turn X-ray mode back off, basically what I want to do is select, I want to kind of zoom in down through the top of the bottle, and I want to select the polygons, or the edges, I should say, down here in the bottom. So I'll just turn off the move tool for a second. I'm going to right click and hold and select edge mode, and I'm going to double click on this little inner ring here, and then I'm going to hold shift and double click on the next ring out, and then on the next ring out, like this. Now let's have a quick look here. I can probably double click the next ring out after that as well, which is sort of this very outer ring just here. It can be a little tricky to get your cursor in the right spot, but basically when it highlights red, that means your mouse is on it. So holding shift, just double click, and that'll select. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is move over to the side view here. You could also do this in the front view if you wanted. You can just switch these to wireframe by pressing 4 on the keyboard, so you can see through it a little more easily. So all I'm going to do here is just grab the move tool, and I'm going to move this down a bit, like this. Now notice that the middle is not moving, so I'm starting to get this point. Okay, that's okay, we can adjust that in a minute. The reason for that is that there's a vertex right in the middle, and we're not actually selecting it because it's not part of the edges that we have selected at the moment. So I'm going to get down to that point. So what I've done is just sort of move that down a bit, like that. And then what I want to do is basically move my cursor across one of the outer ring again and double click it. Oops, actually this should be the control key. So when you double click it, it deselects that ring. So all I'm doing really is I'm just kind of going, working my way sort of back to the middle selection, and just moving each one of those down sort of one at a time. Now, the other thing you can do, I'm actually, when I'm moving these down, I'm actually looking over here. What you can do is move your perspective view around and just kind of pop it down the bottom here somewhere, And what you want to do is just make sure you don't drag down so far that the inside of the bottle pops out through the bottom like this. Okay, so you just want to move them down a little bit. And then once again, you want to kind of rotate around again in your viewport and hold down Control, double click the outer ring to deselect it. And then you want to move these ones down like this. So really all we're trying to do is kind of get these as low down to the bottom of the bottle as we can without them poking out through the bottom like this. We don't want that. So down to about there, that'll do. And then, whoops, hold down Control again, double click the outer ring, and then just move that one down until it's sort of just above the bottom of the bottle like that. So once again, just, you know, double check the outside, make sure nothing is poking out through the bottom of the bottle. So once you've done that, you can just right click and hold on the object and select vertex mode and grab that vertex right in the middle, all right, at the top of that spiky bit. Okay, so that's down in here. So you just select that one and then you just move that down as well. Okay, now when I move that down, it kind of slackens up the polygons around it. You can see now it's actually hanging out through the bottom of the object. All right, so I just need to kind of expand the selection out a little bit and move them back up. So to do that, I'm just going to hold down the Shift key and I'm going to tap the full stop key once. And that expands the selection out from the middle of the vertex here that's selected. And I can just then move all of that up like that. And I'm just going to move it up until it's sort of well inside the bottle. Okay, so you can see now what we're getting inside the bottom of the bottle is this sort of rounded out section. All right. Once again, it's not exactly how those bottles are in real life because the bottles actually follow the shape of the little feet at the bottom. But I don't really want to spend, you know, 5 or 10 minutes doing that. Okay, so that's the bottom of the bottle sorted out. Now the other thing I want to do is basically add a little bit of an edge around this ring and also around the lid. Now the reason I want to do that is if we smooth this lid, because at the moment it looks pretty blocky, if I select this and press 3, you can see how the bottom kind of pinches in like this. It becomes very round. The top's okay, it's just the bottom's too round. What I need to do is get this so it kind of stays pretty sharp at the bottom. So I'll just select that and press 1 again to unsmooth it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this to this ring and this cap at the same time. Now, just so that they're sort of closer together, I'm just going to move the cap back down to the ring. So in the channel box here, I'm just setting these back to 0 so that the cap will jump back to its original position. Okay, and I'll just press F to zoom in there. All right, so I'll turn on wireframe unshaded. So basically what I want to do is select edge mode like this, and I want to double click the edge at the bottom of the cap. So it's just this edge that runs around the bottom. I'm going to come up to Edit Mesh, Bevel, Options, just here. And I'll just hit Edit Reset, okay, just so we're back to the standard settings. I want to set segments to 2. What this is going to do is it's going to split this edge into 2 rows of polygons that run around the selection. Now the number is arbitrary, okay, and it changes from one selection to another. Basically what it does is it kind of bases this number on the size of the selection you have. So you can keep the number the same, but if the number of edges and the size of them are double the size, the actual width of the divisions you get, the segments you get, ends up being different. So you've got to try it, see if it's okay, and if it's not, you undo and then change the number and try again. So in this case, I'm just going to try it as is. I'll hit apply, and you can see there that that's kind of really rounded off. So the number is way too big. So what I do is just come back up to edit and hit undo, and that gets me back to where I was. And then what I do is change this. Now it was really, really big. So what I want to do is maybe make this much smaller. So instead of 0.5, I might go 0.01. So it's actually a lot smaller of a number, and press apply again. And you can see that that's now split very, very small down here, which is what I want. So if I press 3 on the keyboard, you can see now that the cap smooths out, but the bottom stays very sharp. So it's kind of keeping a sort of a more molded plastic shape like that. And that's what I want, basically. So I'm going to do the same thing using the exact same settings to this ring. So this time I'm going to right click on the ring and hit edge mode and just double click the ring at the top, this outer edge at the top. Hold down shift and do the same at the bottom because I want to do both the top and the bottom this time. I'm not worried about the inside edges because you'll probably never see them. So I'm just going to select just those two outer edge rings and then I'll just hit apply. And you can see there that this time that bevel is much smaller than the previous one was. So technically I could probably increase the size. So I'll just go edit, undo again. And I'll increase that back up to maybe, I might try 0.1 for that and hit apply. It's probably a little big, but I think it'll be okay. So I'll just hit close. And you can see there if I hit 3 on the keyboard, it'll smooth off. And if I turn off that wireframe on shaded, you can see that I'm getting a relatively sharp edge there. So that'll be okay for our model. All right, so finally, because I've still got over here in the channel box, I've still got some inputs for some of the modeling I've done. I'm just going to drag a box across everything, and just so everything selects. And I'm going to come up to Edit, Delete by Type, History, and that'll get rid of all of those inputs. And that kind of clears me up, ready to start creating our template. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start creating the actual template for the object. So I'll just split my viewport up again, as you guys saw in the last sort of little intro video for the templating. So I've selected my outliner perspective, pop up to panels, panel, UV texture editor. Okay, so by default, what we have here is a few different objects, and all the templates for those objects are all overlapping and all messed up. At this point, some of these objects are smoothed out, some of them aren't, so I'm just going to select them all and press 1 on the keyboard, and that'll unsmooth them. When you smooth things using number 3 on the keyboard, you can see it actually rounds off the templates as well, and we want to avoid that for now. Okay, so what we have basically is a whole bunch of messy templates all squashed over the top of one another. And what we're going to do is basically create templates for each of the individual objects one at a time. So I'm going to start off with the most complex one, which is the bottle. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to come up to the top of the perspective window, and I'm going to click on Isolate Select, and it'll just hide all the other parts. So the thread, the lid, and the little ring. Okay, so I've just got the bottle selected. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take this kind of messy template, I'm just going to move it out of the way. And I'm going to place it over here in an empty spot in the grid. So I'm going to click on the Move UV Shell tool just here, and I'll click on the template, and I'll just drag this across. Now the reason I'm doing that is that when I recreate part of the template, it'll place it over here, and I don't want the new part overlapping the old part because it makes it difficult to select pieces sometimes. So just move that off to the side. Then I'm going to turn the tool off. Okay, with the Move UV Shell tool, you have to turn it off when you finish with it, because if you don't, it won't let you select different selection modes like vertex or polygon and so on. Alright, so over here I'm just going to deselect all those UV points by clicking in an empty spot on the viewport, and then I'll right click and hold select face mode, and then move down underneath the bottle. And so what we're going to do is create a selection at the bottom of the bottle. The first thing I'll do is find this middle loop here. I'll click on one of the polygons in that loop, and then hold shift and double click the polygon next to it, and it'll select a ring like this. I then want to do the same thing on the inside of the bottle. So I just rotate my viewport around like this. So I'm holding down the Alt key and using the left mouse button to do that. And then I'm going to come down in here and do the same thing. So I hold down shift, I click a polygon in the second row from the middle, and then double click a polygon next to it to select a loop. So I've got one on the inside and I've got one on the outside. Once I've done that, I'm going to hold shift down on the keyboard, and I'm going to press the full stop key once. And that expands the selection out around the selected polygons. So it's now got the polygon selected in the middle and also the next row of polygons out. The same things happen on the inside, like that. So these are the polygons that I'm going to create a template for first, and the reason that I'm doing them is if I press 3 on the keyboard, you can see here that basically they're underneath the object and they're not really going to have any kind of texture on them. Okay, what I'm trying to do basically is end up with more or less like a pipe or a cylinder without a bottom. Okay, so you can see here I've got a hole in the top. Essentially with a template, I'm going to template this piece separately, and then that gives me kind of just the rest of the bottle to do. So let's now create the first piece of template. I'll just press 1 on the keyboard to unsmooth. Now you can see the polygons here are actually over here selected. We'll go up to the Create UVs menu, and we'll come down to Planar Mapping, and we'll go to the option box. And the settings that we want to use in this case are Fit Projection to Bounding Box. You can leave that as it is. And then we need to project from a single direction. Now, the reason I'm using planar is that most of these polygons are facing pretty much down. Okay, so if I look from this direction, I can basically see clearly all of those selected polygons. If I look at this from the side, I can't really see any of them. So I need to find the direction or the shape or the type of surface description in my mapping options that best suits the selected polygons. So in this case, a planar selection would work well because the bottom of the bottle looking from here is kind of flat. So that direction is looking sort of up and down along the bottle. So that's going to be the y-axis. So I'm going to select y-axis here, and I need to make sure Keep Image Width Height Ratio is selected. What this is going to do is stop the piece of the template I'm going to create from stretching inside the grid. If it stretches inside the grid, basically it will cause the texture to stretch on the object, which is what we want to try and avoid where possible. So when I've got those settings done, I'll hit project. And you can see that it's created a template over here out of those selected polygons. So what we do here is we just take these, and you can grab this little arrow here and just move them out of the way like this. Now you'll also notice that one of these polygons, one of these sets of polygons just here, this big one, is red, and that means we're actually looking at that polygon from the back. What I'm going to do is actually flip that around. Technically we don't need to, but I'm just going to do it for the sake of completeness. So I'll select it first of all by clicking the Move UV Shell tool, and then clicking out in this red region just here. Now I've got this switched on. This is the toggle shaded UV display mode I showed you guys in the intro video for the UV templates. So just you can turn that on and off. You guys are probably looking at something like this. If you turn this on, this will show up. So when you've got that outer piece selected, you can just press one of these two buttons. I would go with the flip UVs in the U direction just here, and it'll flip the shape around so that we're actually looking at the outside of the polygons now. And then turn this tool off. Okay, so basically that leaves us with the rest of the bottle, which is this section here. So I'm going to right click and hold on the object and select UV mode. Actually, I'll select face mode and just drag a box across the faces here. And you can see that they all select over here, except for the polygons that we templated before, because they're still up here. So what we do now is we create a template. Once again, we go up to Create UVs, and this time the shape is more cylindrical. This is more of a cylinder shape, so I'm going to use cylindrical mapping. So I just click there, and whoops, now that did spherical mapping. Yeah, make sure you hit cylindrical, not spherical. There we go, that's better. So basically what this is doing, you can see it's put in this projection cage, and it's basically shaped itself and aligned itself at the moment to the cylinder or the bottle shape. Sometimes these cylindrical projections actually end up 90 degrees to the object, and you've got to manually kind of rotate them around. You can do that by clicking this little T button, and it gives you a handle in the middle that you can use to rotate and scale and everything. But we don't need to do that. It's lined up quite well. So down here, basically what we've got is two sections. We've got the inside edge of the bottle, or the inside surface of the bottle, and we also have the outside edge of the bottle, all lined up and sandwiched together on top of one another. And pretty much we can keep them like that. It's not really going to make any difference if we change it. But really we just need to make sure that we do keep them together if we're going to choose to keep them together. It's no good to sort of change our minds halfway through in this case. It's going to be a lot easier just keeping them together. But you can see basically at the top, what we have is the top of the bottle up here, the opening, and down the bottom you can see where the feet are. So this is 1 foot, this is another foot, this is another one, and so on. Now you can see here it's actually splitting halfway through one of these feet. Okay, so there's the middle of the foot. This basically connects over to here on the other side. So what's happened is it's basically taken one of the edges running down the length of the bottle, it's split it and then unwrapped it and flattened it out, and this is what we've got. So what we do here is we just move this off to the side like this, and you can put this anywhere outside the grid. You know, you can pop it up here. All right, doesn't matter where you put it. Okay. So I've just gone back to object mode. I've turned the tool off by clicking up here. Okay. So you can see there, if you select the object, the template shows up. All right. Now for the next, I'm going to leave this video here. And in the next video, we will create templates for the cap, the ring, and the thread. And then basically what we'll do is pretty much arrange them and kind of clean up the template.